The mockery begins. The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chambers stretched high above the assembled delegates, its walls pulsing with soft blue light that reflected off the varied forms of dozens of alien species. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the center podium, her simple gray uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes, crystalline bodies, and scaled armor of the beings surrounding her. She was the first human to ever address the council, and the weight of representing her entire species pressed heavily on her shoulders. The chamber buzzed with whispers and clicks as the aliens observed this strange new creature. Elena had spent months preparing for this moment, studying diplomatic protocols and learning the basic languages of the major species. Earth had finally developed faster than light travel, and now they sought to join the galactic community as peaceful partners in trade and knowledge. Ambassador Zektar of the reptilian hegemony rose from his ornate throne, his massive form casting a shadow across the chamber floor. His scales shimmered green and gold in the artificial light, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded respect for centuries. "So," Zektar hissed, his forked tongue flicking out as he tasted the air, "the mammals from the tiny blue world finally learned to leave their nest. How amusing." Laughter rippled through the assembly, a mixture of growls, chirps, and mechanical sounds from the various species present. Elena maintained her composure, though her jaw tightened slightly. She had expected some resistance, but the open mockery was harder to bear than she had anticipated. "Honored Ambassador," she replied, her voice steady, "humanity comes before this council seeking friendship and mutual cooperation. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our commitment to peaceful coexistence." High Chancellor Vexthu of the Crystalline Confederation chimed in, his voice resonating like struck metal. His body was composed of living crystal, refracting light in beautiful patterns as he moved. "Peaceful coexistence," he repeated, the words ringing with metallic laughter. "Tell us, soft creature, what could your kind possibly offer us? We have observed your world through our long-range sensors. You still fight among yourselves with primitive chemical explosives. Your largest ships barely reach your own moon." More laughter filled the chamber. Elena felt her cheeks flush but forced herself to remain calm. What the aliens didn't know was that Earth had been watching them too, far longer and far more carefully than they realized. While they saw only what humanity wanted them to see, hidden sensors and cloaked observation posts had been studying alien technology and behavior for decades. A delegate from the insectoid swarm clicked his mandibles together, in what Elena recognized as their equivalent of laughter. "Perhaps we should keep them as pets," he buzzed through his translator. "They seem harmless enough, and some of the younger castes might find them entertaining." The chamber erupted in what could only be described as cosmic hilarity. Beings who had conquered star systems and commanded fleets of thousands found the idea of humanity joining their ranks absolutely ridiculous. Elena stood there, absorbing every insult, every laugh, every dismissive gesture, knowing that every word was being recorded and transmitted back to Earth. "Soft mammals with no natural weapons," commented a delegate whose species resembled walking trees. "No claws, no fangs, no armor plating. How did they even survive on their own world?" "Probably by hiding in caves and eating plants," suggested another to renewed laughter. Elena's hands clenched at her sides, but she kept her voice level. "We may not have natural weapons, but we have other qualities that have served us well. We adapt, we learn, and we never give up." This statement only brought more mirth. Zektar slithered closer to the podium, his massive head looming over Elena. "Never give up? How quaint. But what happens when you face a real threat? What happens when someone decides your little blue world would make a nice addition to their empire?" "We would defend ourselves," Elena replied simply. The laughter that followed was deafening. Even the usually stoic machine collective emitted what sounded like mechanical chuckling. Elena realized that to these beings humanity appeared as helpless as insects. They saw the surface of human civilization, the apparent chaos of different nations, the limited space presence, and concluded that humans were weak and defenseless. High Chancellor Vexthu gestured dismissively with one crystalline arm. Child, you have no understanding of the forces at play in this galaxy. There are empires here that could reduce your entire world to ash with a single fleet. There are weapons that could crack your planet like an egg. What would your soft, weaponless species do against such power? Elena looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or optical sensors of as many delegates as she could. In that moment, she made a decision that would change everything. Instead of revealing Earth's true capabilities, she would let them maintain their misconceptions. You're right, she said quietly. We are not warriors like you. We have no great fleets or terrible weapons. We are just humans, trying to find our place among the stars. The admission brought nods of satisfaction from the assembled aliens. Finally, the primitive creature understood her place. Zektar's expression grew almost paternal in a condescending way. At least you recognize your limitations, he said. Perhaps there is wisdom in your species after all. Very well. We will consider your application for membership, though I suspect you will remain in the lowest tier for centuries to come. Certainly you pose no threat to anyone here. As the session concluded and Elena was escorted from the chamber, she activated a small communication device hidden in her uniform. The message she sent was brief, but would set in motion events that none of the laughing aliens could imagine. Mission accomplished. They believe we're helpless. Recommend we maintain the illusion until necessary. Full records transmitted. Elena out. Light years away, Admiral Marcus Chen received the message aboard the hidden station known as Olympus, constructed in the shadow of Jupiter where alien sensors couldn't detect it. The station was one of dozens scattered throughout the outer solar system, each one housing technology that would make the Galactic Council's weapons look like children's toys. Chen was a veteran of the War of Unification, the conflict that had finally brought peace to Earth by demonstrating the futility of human-on-human warfare. What the aliens had seen as chaos and primitive fighting had actually been humanity's final test, preparing them for the greater challenges that lay beyond their world. Admiral, reported his communications officer, long-range sensors are detecting movement in the hegemony fleet positions. It appears they're mobilizing forces near the Centauri system. Chen nodded grimly. He had expected this. The aliens had seen weakness and would eventually be tempted to test it. Humanity had learned long ago that bullies rarely stopped at mere words. Send word to all stations, he commanded. Begin Phase 2 preparations. If they want to see what humans are capable of, we'll be ready to show them. In the depths of space, hidden facilities that had been dormant for years began to stir to life. Ships that existed in no official records powered up their engines. Weapons that had been tested only in simulation began their final calibrations. TC, Galaxy had laughed at humanity's weakness, never suspecting that they had been observing a carefully crafted performance. Earth had learned the most important lesson of survival among the stars. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from being underestimated. As Elena's ship departed the council station, she allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they had seen the measure of humanity that day. They had no idea that they had only seen what humans wanted them to see. The laughter would not last much longer. The Beast Awakens, 3 months after Elena's humiliating appearance before the Galactic Council. The aliens' true nature finally revealed itself. Emperor Klaxhun of the Hegemony had grown tired of waiting for the Council to officially reject humanity's membership application. In his mind, why waste time with bureaucracy when a quick demonstration would solve the problem permanently? The Emperor's flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Bone Crusher, led a fleet of over 200 warships toward the Sol system. The aliens had convinced themselves that this would be little more than a training exercise. Their intelligence suggested that humanity's most advanced weapons were chemical rockets and nuclear devices, technology so primitive it was almost laughable. Open a communication channel to the third planet, Klaxhun commanded from his throne, on the bridge. The Emperor was an impressive sight, standing nearly 3 meters tall with midnight black scales and glowing red eyes. Ceremonial bone spikes adorned his armor, trophies from conquered worlds. The transmission reached Earth within minutes, and soon Klaxoon's image appeared on screens across the planet. His voice carried the arrogance of someone who had never faced real opposition. "Creatures of Earth," he began, his words dripping with contempt. "I am Emperor Klaxoon of the reptilian hegemony. Your pathetic attempt at joining the galactic community has been rejected, but we are not without mercy. Surrender your world now, and we will allow most of your population to live as our servants. Resist, and we will demonstrate why your species should have remained hiding in your caves." The transmission ended, leaving Earth's leaders with what appeared to be an impossible choice. At least that's what the aliens expected. What they didn't expect was the response that came 30 minutes later. General Sarah Mitchell sat in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, a facility that didn't officially exist according to any public records. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at stations that monitored threats from across the galaxy. Mitchell had gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen more combat than most people could imagine. "General," reported her aide, "the alien fleet has stopped at the edge of the system. They're waiting for our response." Mitchell nodded and activated the main communication array. Her message would be transmitted not just to the hegemony fleet, but to every major power in the galaxy. It was time to drop the act. "This is General Sarah Mitchell of Earth Defense Command," she began, her voice carrying absolute authority. "To Emperor Klaxoon and his fleet, you have entered human space without permission and threatened our world. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw beyond the heliopause. After that time, you will be considered hostile invaders and dealt with accordingly." Klaxoon's laughter echoed across the fleet's communication channels. "Earth Defense Command, what a joke. You have no defense, humans. We've seen your primitive technology. Your most advanced ships are barely capable of reaching your own moon." What the Emperor didn't know was that those primitive ships were decoys, deliberately visible to alien sensors, while the real human fleet remained hidden. Earth's actual space force operated from bases built inside asteroids, concealed by technology that made them invisible to conventional detection methods. Captain Jake Rodriguez commanded the TNS Prometheus, humanity's newest Titan-class warship. The ship was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long, but its revolutionary stealth systems made it completely undetectable until it chose to reveal itself. Rodriguez had been waiting for this moment for years, ever since the first alien probe had been detected entering human space. "All stations, this is Prometheus Actual," Rodriguez announced to his crew. "We are now at condition red. Prepare for combat operations." The Prometheus was not alone. Throughout the solar system, dozens of hidden human warships began to move. Unlike the crude chemical rockets the aliens expected, these ships used drives that bent spacetime itself, allowing them to accelerate at rates that would crush conventional spacecraft. Dr. Lisa Park watched from the Prometheus's weapons control center as her life's work prepared for its first real test. The weapons she had designed were based on principles that the Galactic Council had declared impossible for a species of humanity's level. But humans had always specialized in doing the impossible. "Gravitational lance charging to full power," she reported. "Quantum torpedoes armed and ready, all defensive systems online." Emperor Klaxoon was reviewing deployment patterns when his sensor officer suddenly looked up in alarm. "My lord, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system, multiple contacts moving at impossible speeds." "Impossible," Klaxoon snarled. "Their technology is primitive. Check your sensors." But the sensors were working perfectly. As the alien fleet watched in growing alarm, human warships began to decloak all around them. The ships that appeared were nothing like the crude rockets the aliens had expected. These were vessels of elegant death, their hulls crackling with barely contained energy. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Terran Navy ship Prometheus," came a new transmission. "Emperor Klaxoon, you were warned to withdraw. Your time is up." The alien emperor stared at the tactical display showing his fleet completely surrounded by ships that shouldn't exist. For the first time in his long career of conquest, Klaxoon felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. "How is this possible?" he whispered. The answer came not from his officers but from a new transmission originating from Earth itself. Admiral Chen appeared on the screen, his weathered face showing no emotion. "Emperor Klaxhun," Chen said, "you asked how this is possible. The answer is simple. You saw only what we wanted you to see. While you were laughing at our supposed weakness, we were studying you. We learned your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We prepared for this day." The truth was overwhelming. Humanity had been playing a game of cosmic chess while the aliens thought they were dealing with children. Every probe sent to observe Earth had been tracked, analyzed, and allowed to see only carefully staged displays of primitive technology. Meanwhile, human scientists had been reverse engineering alien technology and improving upon it. "Impossible," Klaxhun repeated, but his voice had lost its arrogance. "Your species is young, primitive. We have ruled the stars for millennia." "And in all those millennia," Chen replied, "you never learned the most important lesson. Never underestimate your enemy. You assumed that because we are young, we are weak. You forgot that youth can also mean adaptability, innovation, and the hunger to prove ourselves." The demonstration that followed was swift and decisive. The human fleet didn't destroy the alien ships outright. Instead, they systematically disabled every weapon system, every engine, every defensive measure the hegemony possessed. The aliens watched helplessly as their supposedly superior technology was neutralized by weapons that operated on principles they couldn't even understand. Dr. Park's gravitational lances reached out across space, creating localized distortions that crumpled alien armor like paper. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields as if they didn't exist, delivering precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses that shut down enemy systems without harming the crews inside. Within an hour, the mighty hegemony fleet was completely helpless, floating dead in space while human ships held them in a perfect tactical formation. "This is impossible," Klaxon said for the third time, but now his voice carried awe rather than disbelief. "This is humanity," Admiral Chen corrected. "We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, nor the oldest, but we are adaptable, we are clever, and we never ever give up. You wanted to see our war beast, Emperor. Congratulations. You're looking at it." The news of the hegemony's defeat spread across the galaxy within hours. The species that had been dismissed as harmless pets had just neutralized one of the most powerful military forces in known space without firing a single lethal shot. The precision and restraint shown by the human fleet was perhaps more terrifying than simple destruction would have been. Ambassador Zektar received the news in his private chambers and felt his blood run cold. High Chancellor Vex Thu's crystalline form actually cracked from the shock. The insectoid swarm's collective consciousness buzzed with confusion and fear. Commander Elena Vasquez stood once again in the Galactic Council chambers, but this time the atmosphere was very different. No one was laughing now. The same beings who had mocked humanity's weakness 3 months earlier now looked upon their representative with something approaching terror. "The hegemony fleet has been returned to their space unharmed," Elena announced, her voice carrying new authority. "Their weapons and engines have been repaired and their crews are safe. Consider this humanity's formal introduction to galactic politics." Zektar's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want from us?" Elena smiled, and suddenly the assembled aliens understood that they had been dealing with a predator species, all along. Humans might not have claws or fangs, but they had something far more dangerous: intelligence, patience, and the ability to turn any situation to their advantage. "What we've always wanted," Elena replied. "A seat at the table, equal partnership, mutual respect. The only difference is that now you understand the consequences of refusing." The vote to grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council was unanimous. No one wanted to risk becoming the next example of what happened when you underestimated the species from the small blue world. As Elena left the chamber, she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars, not through conquest or intimidation, but by proving that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't look dangerous at all. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again. The war beast had awakened, and it was far more terrible than anyone had imagined. It was intelligent, patient, and absolutely determined to protect what it valued most. Earth was no longer just another world. It was home to the species that had redefined what it meant to be powerful in a galaxy full of ancient empires. The age of humanity among the stars had truly begun.